Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, the podcast that takes, those really dense academic papers and makes them surprisingly interesting. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
We've noticed a lot of you are tuning in, which is amazing, but I haven't quite hit that subscribe button yet.
Yeah, and that little button, honestly, it's so small, but it makes such a huge difference in helping us reach more people with these important discussions.
Right. It's true. Like the algorithms, those mysterious forces that decide what we all see and hear, they pay a lot of attention to subscriber numbers.
Yeah, think of it like the subscribing. It's like casting a vote for quality content, So these insightful research discussions don't just get lost in the sea of all the information out there.
More subscribers equals more visibility. Right. And that means more resources for us to make even deeper dives for you.
Yeah.
Maybe bring in experts for interviews, even do some live Q&A sessions where you can jump in.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about building a community around research,
Yeah.
where curiosity thrives and knowledge is like shared and debated. Today we're going to be talking about, kind of a tough subject, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's about healthcare. And specifically, we're looking at an academic article called Intimate Neoliberal Violence and Ungrievable Meno Bodies.
Quite a mouthful.
It is from the Journal of Marketing Management. So that's interesting already.
Yeah.
We're talking about marketing management when we're talking about women's bodies.
Exactly.
So in this deep dive, we're going to be looking at women in the healthcare system in India. And we're going to be looking at it through the lens of neoliberalism and how these market forces can impact women's well-being.
Yeah, and I think this article really gets at that feeling that a lot of us have probably had in a healthcare setting, where you just feel lost and confused and like you're just a number or a problem to be solved.
Yeah, like you're not a person anymore.
Exactly.
You're just a thing to be.
A case.
Yeah.
A case.
Yeah.
And that's really what this concept of intimate neoliberal violence is all about.
Okay, whoa. Intimate neoliberal violence.
I know, it's
Gotta unpack that.
a big one, right?
What is that?
So neoliberalism basically is this idea that like individual responsibility and competition and free markets are the best way to organize society. And obviously that impacts healthcare.
Okay.
And so intimate neoliberal violence is basically the violence that kind of system does to people.
Okay, so it's not like somebody's going out and like punching somebody.
Right.
It's more like...
It's more insidious. It's
just that
such a,
kind of thing.
like think about long wait times or confusing medical bills or feeling pressured to make a decision about a treatment that you don't really understand.
Yeah, like you don't have all the information.
Right.
But you feel like you need to make a decision right now.
Exactly.
And it's scary.
And that's the violence, like it's not intentional, but it's still harmful.
Right.
And it can really have a big impact on people's mental and emotional well-being.
So this article follows a woman named Shalaka, who's a university professor in India. And she starts experiencing just like terrifying, prolonged, heavy bleeding.
Yeah.
Which I can't even imagine.
And she, she's supposed to be like this responsible consumer of healthcare.
Okay.
She's supposed to be informed and, do her research and be in control of her health.
So she's like Googling all her symptoms and trying to figure it out.
Which, sounds good in theory.
Yeah.
I mean, knowledge is power, but...
Yeah, you should.
But the problem is that when you have a system that's so complicated, that can actually backfire and make you feel like if something goes wrong, it's your fault.
Right.
Because you weren't informed enough.
That's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So she starts off, she gets some blood tests, hoping to get some answers.
Right.
But her results are all over the place.
Yeah.
Her serum iron levels are super high, which puts her in like a high risk category. But her hemoglobin was low.
Right. So it's this ambiguity of risk.
Yeah.
You get this label of like, oh, you're high risk.
But what does that even mean?
But they don't really explain what that means or what you should do about it.
Yeah, that's so scary.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of listeners have had that experience where you get some test results back and you're like, I don't know what to do with this.
Right. Like, what do I do now?
Exactly. And so you're left to kind of Google and try to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
And that can just lead to more anxiety.
Absolutely. And Dr. Google is not always the most reliable.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
and then that creates this fear and uncertainty, which, in a market-driven healthcare system is often exploited.
Yeah.
Because then you're more likely to, agree to whatever tests or treatments are recommended.
Because you just want relief.
Exactly. You just want answers.
Yeah.
And you want to feel better.
Exactly.
And so Shalaka she finds a doctor online.
Okay.
And even that's kind of tainted by like this market influence because the doctor recommends more tests, but only at a specific lab. So, that makes her wonder.
Right.
Is this doctor getting a kickback from this lab?
Yeah, are they getting some kind of financial incentive to send me to this specific lab?
Exactly.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, and it just makes you question everyone's motives.
Yeah, you don't know who to trust. So she ends up getting the additional tests that the doctor recommended.
Yeah, desperately wanting some answers.
Yes.
But the results come back normal.
Oh, no.
Even though she's still bleeding.
So now she has even more questions.
Right, so at this point, she's just exhausted and desperate. So she decides to see a doctor in person.
Okay.
At a private hospital.
At a private hospital. Okay.
And that's where things kind of take a turn.
Oh, boy.
For the worse.
Okay, so we're going to have to save that for part 2.
Yeah, we'll have to dive into that in part 2.
Of this deep dive.
Exactly.
To see what happens at the hospital.
But it's not good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we left off with Shalaka going to a private hospital in India.
Right.
To see a doctor in person. Because she was still experiencing this really scary bleeding.
Yeah.
And the first thing that they do is they make her get a transvaginal scan.
Right.
Which is, already uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah, that's not...
And the whole time that she's getting this scan, like the nurses and the people doing the procedure are just gossiping.
Yeah, it's just another day at the office for them.
Yeah, they're talking about what they're going to have for lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
And completely ignoring her.
It's just so dehumanizing.
It is, yeah.
And it's a perfect example of what the article calls like the clinical gaze, where you're just seen as like a problem to be fixed.
Not a person.
Not a person.
Wow. Okay, so.
And so finally,
Yeah.
she gets to see the doctor.
Okay.
And he barely even looks at her.
Oh, gosh.
He just glances at her scan and he's like, okay, you need a hysterectomy.
Whoa.
No discussion. No like exploring other option.
Yeah. Wow, a hysterectomy.
Just boom, surgery.
That's a major surgery.
It's major surgery.
Yeah.
And he's just recommending it like it's nothing.
Like it's taking out her tonsils or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like especially crazy because,
Yeah.
she's dealing with this issue that's related to menopause. And so it's like, her body is already kind of being seen as like,
Yeah.
useless in a way.
Ungrievable.
Ungrievable, right?
Yeah.
Like she's past childbearing age. So
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. Like, what's the big deal about taking out her uterus?
Oh my God.
Right.
This is just like making me so angry.
It's really upsetting.
It is.
And
Yeah.
it's just like so dismissive of her feelings and her right to like make an informed choice.
Yeah, and I can imagine her in this situation. Like, she must have felt so much pressure.
Oh, absolutely.
To just like do what the doctor says.
Yeah, because he's the authority figure.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is what you need to do. And she's probably feeling really vulnerable and scared.
Yeah, she's just trying to get some answers and relief.
Exactly. And he's just like, oh yeah, you need surgery.
Yeah, like, not a big deal.
No big deal. It'll be fine.
We'll just schedule that right now.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like, there's this financial aspect too, where it's like, she's probably going to have to pay a lot of money for this surgery.
Right.
And so there's this pressure to like, just go ahead and do it.
To get it over with.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like emotional pressure.
Right.
But then also financial pressure, which is just awful.
Yeah, it's just a terrible situation to be in.
It is. So what does she do?
Well, so she tries to buy some time,
Okay.
to process all of this. But the doctor and the hospital staff, they're just like pushing her to like make a decision right now.
So like, okay, we'll just go ahead and schedule that.
Right, like when can you come in for the surgery?
Are you free next Tuesday?
Exactly.
Okay, great. We'll put you down.
Yeah. And it's like, they're probably thinking about like their bottom line.
Right.
How much money they can make off of this surgery.
It's just like she's
A commodity.
Yeah, she's a number to them.
Exactly.
So she's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Hold on. I need to think about this.
Right.
So what does she do?
So she decides to tap into that, like, consumer health responsibilizations that we talked about before.
Yeah.
But this time she's doing it on her own terms.
Oh.
So she starts doing a ton of research.
Okay.
She's like reading everything she can find online. She's consulting with other doctors, getting second opinions.
So she's like really taking control of her own health journey.
Yeah, she's not just blindly accepting what this one doctor told her.
Right. She's questioning everything.
Yeah.
Which is what we all should be doing.
Absolutely.
Right. In any healthcare situation.
Yeah. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yes.
And get second opinions.
Exactly.
Because you know your health is your responsibility.
Yeah, it's the only one you got.
Exactly.
So she's going out and she's getting all this information
Right.
and talking to all these different people.
Yeah.
But is that helping?
Well, it kind of backfires a little bit.
Okay.
Because she ends up seeing like 9 more doctors.
9 more.
9 more doctors.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And each one has like a slightly different opinion.
Oh my gosh. So now she's probably
Yeah, she's more confused than ever.
even more confused. Yeah.
And some of the doctors, they're like really dismissive.
Of her concerns.
Yeah, of her concerns.
Oh gosh.
And like one doctor tells her that like her sex life is effectively over.
Whoa.
Even though like she didn't even ask about that. It wasn't even related to like what they were talking about.
Okay, so we're back to that clinical gaze.
The clinical gaze.
Where it's like, you're not even a person.
Exactly.
You're just
a body.
a uterus.
Yeah.
That's awful.
And like her sex life is over because she's menopausal.
Yeah, like her life is over
Right.
because she's menopausal.
Exactly. It's just like so.
That's so messed up.
Yeah, it's really messed up. So yeah, she's getting all this information, but it's not really helping.
Yeah.
It's just making her more confused
Right.
and more overwhelmed.
And probably more scared.
Yeah, definitely.
So what happens?
Well, so in the midst of all this, she stumbles upon something that changes everything.
Okay.
She finds out about a procedure called uterine fibroid embolization.
Uterine fibroid embolization.
Uterine fibroid embolization.
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but it's basically UFE for short.
Okay, UFE.
So UFE is this minimally invasive procedure
Okay.
that shrinks fibroids by cutting off their blood supply.
Okay.
So
no hysterectomy.
No hysterectomy required.
Okay, so none of these 9 doctors that she saw mentioned this as an option.
Nope. Not one.
Wow.
Which is just mind-boggling.
That is.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, why are they not telling her about this?
I don't know, but that's so frustrating.
It is. And it really shows you, like, how, you know, these financial incentives and, like, specialized knowledge can really limit the options that are presented to patients.
So maybe some of those doctors didn't even know about UFE.
I mean, they just weren't up to date on the latest treatments, or maybe they were just more inclined to recommend the hysterectomy because it's more profitable.
Yeah.
So it's really
so scary.
It is. It's really important to like do your research and be your own advocate.
Yeah.
Because you can't always trust that your doctor is going to have your best interests.
Yeah, your doctor is a human being too.
Exactly, and they're part of a system.
Yeah, they're part of a system
that is often driven by profit.
Right. Wow. This is a lot.
It is, yeah.
So stay tuned for the third part.
Yeah, stay tuned for the third part
of this deep dive to see what happens with Shalaka and this UFE.
Yeah, we'll see if she decides to get the UFE.
Okay.
And what happens next.
Okay, so last time we left off with Shalaka finding out about this this UFE procedure, uterine fibroid embolization.
Yeah.
Which none of the doctors that she had seen had mentioned.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like this hidden knowledge.
Yeah, and it's less invasive than a hysterectomy.
Way less invasive. Yeah.
So did she just go and get it right away?
Well, she took some time to kind of explore some other options too.
Okay.
Like she decided to try some traditional herbal and homeopathic therapies.
Okay, so she's kind of going a more holistic route.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like she wanted to see if there was a way to kind of heal her body from the inside out.
Yeah.
You know, before resorting to like a medical procedure.
Yeah, so these herbal and homeopathic therapies, like, are they scientifically proven to like shrink fibroids?
Not really, no.
Okay.
But I think for her it was more about like taking control of her own body.
Yeah.
And like, you know, trying everything she could before going under the knife.
Yeah, I can respect that.
Yeah, and so she did these therapies for about 6 months.
6 months. Oh,
and she actually had another ultrasound.
Okay.
And the fibroids were shrinking.
What?
Yeah. It was pretty amazing.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so, you know, it just goes to show you that, like, sometimes, you know, there are other options out there.
Right.
And that, you know, sometimes these alternative therapies can actually work. I mean, obviously, this is just one person's experience.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that it's going to work for everybody.
Of course, yeah.
But it's definitely something to consider. And it just highlights the importance of, like, listening to your body.
Yeah.
And exploring all your options and being an active participant in your own healthcare.
You are your own best advocate. So it sounds like even though Shalaka's journey through the healthcare system in India was pretty, scary and frustrating.
Yeah, definitely.
She kind of came out on the other side.
Yeah, she did. And she came out stronger, I think.
Yeah, and it sounds like she really, took control of her own narrative.
Exactly. She didn't let the system define her.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and, she was really able to, advocate for herself and find a solution that worked for her.
Yeah. So I guess the takeaway here is that, if you're going through something similar,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask questions.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Do your own research.
Yeah, and get second opinions and really just trust your gut.
Yes. Trust your intuition.
If something doesn't feel right,
Yeah, speak up.
speak up.
It's your body, it's your life.
Exactly.
And I think we can all learn a lot from Shalaka's story.
Absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more captivating deep dives like this one. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.